What is going on, everybody, man? King Recon here. Welcome to the Retro Recon Vlogs series. And on this edition of the Retro Recon Vlogs series, I want to talk about a series that I just finished catching up to, man. A manga with 111 chapters. If you are looking for something to read and to get into, if you're trying to scratch that Shonen Jump itch, it's getting an anime soon, so if you want to wait for the anime, that's perfectly fine. But I want to give a huge shout out to my boy Commodore Laz here on YouTube for recommending this series to me, man. My brother, thank you, dude, because this was such a fun binging experience, man. This was one that I took pretty slow. I started it, I think it was about a week now, week and a half, somewhere on there. And I would read it just on and off. Like while I was playing my video games, I would have it on my phone and I would read a couple chapters, especially when it got really, really good. Read a couple chapters, put it down, pick it back up, read a couple chapters. And every time that I picked up and read Jujutsu Kaisen, it was always a good time. And I think the reason for this, aside from stuff that I'll mention here in a little bit, and this video will be pretty spoiler free, so don't worry about spoilers if you've never read the series before. But the main reason why I was having such a good time with this series, just in terms of the way that it made me feel, is that the series makes me feel nostalgic in a weird sort of way. It gives me the vibes of a show that I would watch on TV as a kid. Especially since I was a Cartoon Network Adult Swim baby who watched a lot of those, who watched all like Toonami and Adult Swim Action and that type of stuff. I really could have seen myself, if this series would have been made in the 90s, watching this series in the early 2000s in Adult Swim. It gives me those type of vibes with the main cast, with the art style, with the topics at hand, with the type of violence that it ensues. It gives me the type of vibe of a show that I would have watched as a kid. And I think that that's the biggest type of compliment that I could give a series like this, because it is catered to that type of audience. And with all that being said, I think that's why just the feeling that this series gives me is something that I really cherish. Because when something makes you feel in that type of way, it makes you feel like a kid, and it makes you feel like you're witnessing and experiencing something that you would have enjoyed in your younger years. Which I'm enjoying it a lot right now, but that I definitely would have enjoyed watching it on TV. It brings good vibes. It brings nostalgic vibes, and it really makes me appreciate how authors are able to put that type of feeling into their story, because it really does give me that type of vibe that like Hakusho gives me, that chill type of really cool vibe, while at the same time delivering on the same type of really nice story elements that I appreciate from a series like a Hakusho or a series like a Kenshin or something like that, that I watched whenever I was younger. And man, dude, I really, really enjoy it. I really enjoy the inner struggle that we see each character go through when it comes to their decision making, when it comes to the battles at hand, where, they question whether what they're doing is right, whether it's wrong, whether it's something that they can look back on and feel regret, whether it's something that's going to make them feel some sort of way after they make the decision. But all of that ultimately leads to making a decision, period. Right? So after they make that decision, they're going to have to live with that decision. And we see the characters go through the turmoil, the internal mental turmoil after making that decision, or after, the consequences leading after that. And I appreciate that, man. I really, really do. It's one of my favorite things to see in a story like this. And the fact that the author puts so much emphasis on that really makes it enjoyable, especially with the type of series that it is. It's very much appreciated. Very, very much appreciated. Going on to like the techniques and stuff, bro. Dude, y'all can't tell me domain expansion doesn't sound fire. Anytime a character says the name, anything even related to domain expansion, I just imagine the way they're gonna say it in the anime with like each of the characters and the way they're gonna put emphasis on that, man. It's gonna sound like Bankai, like domain expansion. Every time that comes up, I'm like, all right, dude, we're about to get in some heat. We're about to get into some heat. Satoru Gojo, man. You know, there's certain characters that just there's hype, there's rawness that oozes from their existence. And Satoru flipping Gojo is one of those characters, man. Not only is design fresh, but when my boy goes ham, he goes ham, man. And it's much appreciated every time, especially since we got those glorious double page spreads. Usually whenever he goes ham, and it's always a ton of fun. And then on the opposing side of that, the antagonists. The antagonists are really, really, really interesting. They're very fun. Every time they're on screen, it's never this type of, oh, I can't wait to get back to the main cast. And I appreciate that because as a villain person and as somebody who's, like, my love for certain series is driven by how interesting the antagonists are. This series definitely has some very interesting antagonists. Their abilities are interesting, their motivations are interesting, especially since some of them are still clouded in mystery. 111 chapters in, and getting more insight into certain things. Like there's a certain backstory and flashback that happens halfway through the story that really puts a lot of stuff into context, and it really started making me appreciate how the antagonists are being written, especially one of them. I was like, man, dude, this is extremely fascinating, especially where we currently are in the current Shibuya incident arc. And it's like, dude, all this stuff is popping off, and I care so much for it because of everything that's been leading up to this very moment with both sides of the story. But it all goes back to that one flashback and that one backstory that took place dead center in the middle of the story, and it was provided so much context, man. Like I really appreciate that. The placement of that flashback, especially for the stuff that took place a little bit before that, and now the stuff taking place after that, because, man, sweet mother of Flagnards. It's absolutely crazy. And then, of course, the main cast, they're all really enjoyable. Their dynamics with each other, anytime that they have an opportunity to troll and to have those fun little comedic moments, it's always appreciated, and the relationship between certain characters are so fascinating. And I want to talk about two in particular, man, and they have to revolve around one particular character, which is Secunia, bro. Yo, from the very beginning, the chapter that really got me, hook, line, and sinker, where it was the first time where I could not put my phone down when I was reading, was in chapter 9, 10, like that stretch right there, with Secunia and Megumi, man. Because, dude, I mean, there was something there that once again goes back to that the series makes me feel like how I used to feel whenever I used to watch stuff whenever I was watching like an Adult Swim or whatnot. It has that really nice type of vibe to it where the interactions are genuinely interesting and exciting. So when those two characters have those interactions, then you have like little flashbacks later on in the series that goes back to that very same interaction with Secunia and Megumi, and Megumi. And you're like, man, dude, like it was so interesting, and the aftermath of that, and I was hooked. I was hooked from then on up until catching up, and then of course the relationship between Yuji and Secunia, man, because ever since I watched Bleach, I've always been fascinated by characters like this, you know, characters that have to deal and attempt to control this thing that's inside them. Especially when you don't know its origins and you don't know where it comes from, but you know that the situation at hand is going to change the main character for the better, and it's going to move the story forward, especially when everybody's so interested in that thing that's inside of them. And the way that this series handles the entire Secunia aspect is so fascinating to me, because it's something that happens very rarely. But when it is brought up, it's like there's this level of importance that immediately glues you to the screen. Like whenever that name, Secunia, is brought up, you're like, Flagnards. Like we're talking about something very, very important here on either side. Whether it's the main characters talking about Secunia, or whether it's the antagonists, you know, and it's always very fascinating, especially whenever my boy comes out, man, and stuff starts going in, and you know that the author really enjoys drawing those panels of when it comes to like the fighting and the choreography when it comes to the battles. It's just some of those double spreads are so interesting, man. God, it makes for a really fun time when it comes to reading a manga like that, because it makes it feel like I'm experiencing it in animated form, and I appreciate the art style, because the art style really does add on to the atmosphere that the series, I think, is trying to go for, and it just adds more onto like what I was saying earlier, and the way that it makes me feel, the way I vibe with it. And then, man, dude, I think the very last thing I want to talk about is something that happened just recently. Like I said, and I'm trying to keep this as spoiler free as possible, minimal spoilers. But there was a battle that took place just recently that really, really put into perspective why it is that this series is so enjoyable for me. And that was a battle that took place in the sort of bathroom-like area with water flowing all over the place. And while that chaos was going on in the room, you had the two characters, and they had like this Hunter x Hunter-esque dialogue, this narrator, going and telling you exactly how both characters are feeling and how both characters are about to tackle the situation. You see their mental struggles, you see why it is they're about to take the action they're about to take, and then when you see them take those actions, and then you see the following panels that ensue after that narration, after that internal monologue, you see both characters start duking it out. And it just makes for this incredible combination of strategy and yet throwing hands that I really appreciate in my stories, bro. Because I love my tactics, I love my strategies, but I also love it when people just throw hands. And this series has that type of combination that I really enjoy. It's kind of like if I took the strategy and the techniques from Hunter x Hunter and combined it with the sort of throwing hands and violent aspect of Yu Yu Hakusho and put it into one when it comes to some of these battles, and that's how it makes me feel. And I'm a Togashi tart, so y'all know that's a massive compliment, man. That's a massive compliment. And it just made for a really, really fun battle experience, and that's just one example of what the rest of the series has to offer. Like, there's so many interesting battles that have taken place so far, especially when it comes to the large-scale battles that are presented, but also in the small-scale 1v1s or 2v2s or 2v1s or 3v1s. It's just the strategy and the tactics and learning about each individual ability, learning about how this battle system really works. And it's like through the battle system we get to learn a lot, and I should say through the battles we get to learn about both sides, their personalities, the characteristics that come to what makes them tick and what makes them move, and whether they're, like I said earlier, some characters within those battles, they really question whether what they're doing is right or wrong, and it makes for some really interesting and very immersive battles. Because when you're not only seeing a character have an internal conflict but an external conflict at the same time, it causes for some really, really immersive experiences, and it's hard to pull off. And I feel like this series does pull it off, and in a really nice way, because it's like it's tackling these sort of ideas, but it still keeps it simple enough to where you can understand, And there was even this one author comment earlier on in the story where the author was talking about, yeah, I do put a lot of dialogue, a lot of text, and a lot of, I think he, like, just to put it into, to summarize it, I think it was basically saying, like, he puts a lot of big words into his story, even though he understands that there are a lot of elementary school and junior high kids that read his story. But he was like, I don't want to limit myself when it comes to the words that I speak. And so I guess since I'm not Japanese, I'm not able to tell like the difference in the words that are being spoken, right, in the story. But the only thing I can go off is in the translations and whatnot. But this series definitely does have a lot more dialogue, a lot more text than the other. And granted, I'm not caught up to every series in Shonen Jump, but it definitely does have a lot compared to the others. It's very, very similar to Hunter x Hunter in certain aspects when it comes to the text. But I appreciate that he gave off that other comment, because it really made me think, like, okay, this person values the story that they want to tell over being publicly accepted, and accepted by a majority of the public, and I will always appreciate that, man. You exercise the freedom to tell the story you want to tell over what the other people want, because at the end of the day, that's truly what makes you happy, man. And so far, what this man has been wanting to make and wanted to create has caused for a very, very fun experience, and I'm looking forward to experiencing it from now on. As I'm finally caught up. So it was very interesting. I'm thankful to, once again, to Laz and to Silva and to Ebo that one night, who were really selling me on the series, and it was a really fun experience, and I look forward to seeing where the series goes from here, especially with the insane cliffhangers that we've been having lately within the story, man. But I'll see y'all next time. If you're caught up to JJK or Jujutsu Kaisen, please let me know how you feel about the series in the comment section down below. And if you want to give the series a shot, but you're waiting for the anime, I really hope I didn't spoil you or anything in this particular video. But if I did, I apologize, because I tried to keep it as spoiler-free as possible, man. But I will see you all next time. Everybody has an awesome of a day. Take care. Jujutsu Kaisen greatness. Man, dude. I'm telling you, that it gives good vibes. Very, very good vibes.